Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley. I'm your law enforcement translator, you guys, a 13-year veteran here to give you guys insight on all things law enforcement in this country. You guys, listen, we have difficult conversations over here. We don't stray or hide away from complex issues. This is a group of critical thinkers, you guys. We break things down. We have these difficult conversations. We're not afraid of it. And listen, I will say this, as you guys are watching, this is a premiere video. You guys, I love these premieres. I love the countdown intro. I'm addicted to it. And I love it. I feel like it brings us closer together and gives us an opportunity to have these conversations. So what are we talking about in this video? First and foremost, I got to say thank you to my subscribers. You guys, we've come a long way. For those who are new to the channel, please, as you're entering in for this premiere, please hit the like button. I assure you, you will enjoy this video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe. I would love to have you a part of this journey, you guys. We are on something different. Listen, no one is doing what I'm doing over here on YouTube, you guys. I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran, and I'm here to give you insight. Ask anything that you like. Let's talk about these difficult conversations. It's needed. And not only that, we're going to talk about solutions, and I'm working towards bringing those solutions to the forefront of our communities. So listen, what is this video about, you guys? Before we dive into that, if you find value in this content, please don't hesitate to donate, you guys. I have my CashApp or PayPal in the description section. Please, by all means, it goes a long way. So again, before we get started, what are we talking about today, you guys? As you know, it's February. This is Black History Month. So again, we're gonna celebrate. I'm gonna give you something interesting today. We're gonna talk about Black history, but we're gonna talk about the history of African-American men and women who have served this country in law enforcement. Let's talk about the history. Let's break it down. Now, you guys, I'm not a fan of Black History Month, but I'm gonna tell you why. See, there's no way to encapsulate such amazing melanated people within 28 days in 1 month when I know that there are far more than 365 amazing African-American men and women who have served, thrived, blood, sweat, tear, and sacrifice, and gave so much for this nation, you guys. There's no way we can actually put them in a box for just 28 days. It's impossible. Now, I like Black History Year. I like Black History 365. These are the numbers that I like to hear, you guys. Every day should be a day we're celebrating, acknowledging all the amazing people that have lived, died, and served this country. African Americans have a unique history, a rich history, you guys, and we've done a lot, continue to do a lot. Trailblazers, nonstop. Some people in the grave, and their story, their DNA still is beneficial to the people today, you guys. There's so much. There's so much we have to be thankful for the African Americans in this country. In this video, what are we talking about? You guys, I'm gonna break down some interesting characters, some amazing Black men and women who've worked in law enforcement. Let's talk about the history. Let's break it down. Where are we starting at, you guys? Before we get all into this, as we know how African Americans got to this country, we're aware of that. Let's talk about after slavery. What happened, you guys? Obviously, there's been some unique things that took place. I'm gonna share some things with you. What happened? 1865, immediately after slavery was abolished, you guys. Listen, African Americans, look, Black people wasted no time. They wasted no time. It wasn't so shortly after they jumped in and started applying to be law enforcement officers. You guys, let's talk about this. Because policing back then, during Jim Crow, during segregation, when the Black codes were at its height, where systemic racism was on the rise, it was purposeful. It was done for a reason. Why'd they do it? Listen, you guys, Jim Crow lasted almost 100 years. Blacks couldn't vote, couldn't get an education. They were segregated from the populace. They could not interact with white people. They were treated unfairly. They were abused. They were lynched, you guys. They were oppressed. Systemic racism was high and prevalent. Despite all those things, we had heroes in our community that stood up and put a uniform on. They put a badge on. They fought through all the adversities that took place in these racist police departments, these departments in the South that were actually ran by Ku Klux Klan members. It was pervasive all throughout the police department. You guys, the Black community never felt safe. Why? Because they had white Ku Klux Klan members in uniform, in blue uniforms, and they're terrorizing communities. But we had some black men and women who stood up, you guys. They stood up, they made the sacrifice, they patrolled the neighborhoods, patrolled the communities, they defended our own people. You guys, these are our heroes of old. These are the heroes of renown, right? And so we're going to talk about them. Let's take it from the top, from the year, you guys. Again, the moment slavery was abolished, we wasted no time. We jumped right in. I'm going to talk to you about some heroes, some African-American heroes and law enforcement. And let's start with this year. So we see in 1867, tips it off, you guys, Alabama is in record the first state to actually start hiring their first black police officers for the police department. You guys, they wasted no time. This is approximately 3 years after slavery was abolished. They hopped right into it. You know, they had police officers. They needed black police officers to patrol the black communities. And so who else jumped on board? Shortly after was Florida, then Texas. In 1870, New Orleans, Louisiana hired over 177 police officers in their department that were African American, you guys. This was a big deal. Then again, slavery had just ended. You had people who were actually born slaves coming out of slavery and joining the police department. So it was a big deal at the time, you guys. It was an honor to serve the black community, being a black officer. And this was important. This was important to them. What else happened? April 12, 1870, Officer William Johnson with the Jacksonville, Florida Police Department was killed in the line of duty, you guys. He was the first African American whose life was taken in the line of duty, you guys. And listen, even though his sacrifice was so great, he's remembered not just for being the first that lost his life, but also one of the many African American officers that took up the mantle, that put on the uniform and went out every day to serve not only his community, but also his country, you guys. There was so much going on. His death and the news of his death made headlines across the nation as the first African American man on record to lose his life in a tragic line of duty. So again, we honor him and thank him for his sacrifice, as much as we know many others after him have also gave the ultimate sacrifice from doing this job and lost their lives in service of others. So moving forward, you guys, we're going to talk about some honorable mentions, some people that you probably never heard of, but stories and tales of adventures and great gun battles were told about them, you guys. Listen, the origins of these individuals, they're not just a myth, they're legends, they're true, and they're African American. So guess who I'm going to start off with? You guys probably wouldn't even guess this, but this gentleman is actually based on a true story. Based on a recent movie called Klansman. If you guys are not familiar with it, Denzel Washington's son actually played the lead actor in the movie. Now the movie was boring, I'm not gonna lie, it was whack, I'm not gonna lie. But so this character, Ron Stallworth, this begins in November 1972. What does he do? Ron Stallworth is an African American man who joins the Colorado Springs Police Department. He's like, listen, I want to be a police officer. I want to serve my community. You guys, don't forget, this is the 70s. So the conflict, racial conflict and the tension is still there. We're just getting out of the civil rights movement. And so what happens? Ron Stallworth, he decides, he sees an ad for the Ku Klux Klan membership. He's like, hey, they got an ad in the paper if you want to be a Ku Klux Klan member. You can sign up. What does he do? He signs up. He calls them and he pretends to be white, wanting to join the Klan. What does end up happening? He goes undercover. He goes undercover in the Klan and he starts to unveil all their secrets, unveil all the damage and the drama and the violence and the racism that they do. And what's so interesting that he actually got his coworker to help him out. The coworker, of course, is a white investigator. He had his white friend go and show up to the rallies to get the intel, but he was the actual one talking on the phone to the Klan's members. And so it ended up becoming a really big investigation. They were able to solve a lot of crimes and unveil a lot of inner secrecies to the KKK members, and it led to some arrests, a lot of arrests. So again, this was a real story. So if you haven't seen it, check out Klansman. I didn't like it. It was kind of boring, but I'm sure there's a lot of, I honestly didn't even finish it. I'm sorry, I can't recommend a movie like that, but I think for the sake of just knowing, matter of fact, just look them up and read about them, right? Because I can't put you through that. So anyways, who else is my next honorable mention, you guys? You're going to love this. All right, so I wanted to speak to this individual, I think it's very important. We're talking about the criminal justice, the history of black history, the impact that African Americans made in the criminal justice system, specifically law enforcement. But I got to talk about this individual, Macon Allen. Why is this name so important? In 1844, you guys, this is the first African American attorney to practice law in this country, guys. What a powerful achievement. You know, sometimes we fall asleep on the criminal justice system. We don't realize who paved the way for everybody else. You guys, attorneys are necessary. African American attorneys are more necessary, right? Because we don't have a lot of them. I said this before, according to the American Bar Association, in this country now, all of the African Americans that are attorneys only represent 5%, you guys. It's not easy to become an attorney. It's a lot of work, but they're needed. So a special shout out goes out to the lead attorney and Suzette Speaks. You guys are two amazing attorneys. And again, you guys, they represent such a small group, such a small group. They represent 5%. You guys, we need more. We got to step up. We got to step up. And I know it's a difficult profession to get into, you guys, but we are underrepresented. And when you think about the origins, you think about the history, in 1844, the first black African American attorney to practice law, you guys, you recognize that the sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears, you see that we came a long way. We cannot give up that fight. So again, special shout out to them. And let's get back to our officers. Now, this gentleman's very interesting. His name is James Jones. In 1919, you guys, he was the first African American to become an FBI agent. You guys, this gentleman is very interesting. They called him Agent 800, right? Makes you wonder. The way his picture looks, he's real smooth, charismatic. They said he was very good at his job. Not only that, he was also a Buffalo Soldier, you guys, who was in the military. If you don't know about the Buffalo Soldiers, I'm about to do a video on that. But these guys were African Americans who served in World War I. So who was he? An amazing investigator. They said his skills were off the chart. He was good at his job. He was a good investigator. He got hired for the FBI. He did undercover work. And unfortunately, of course, the FBI used him to infiltrate black organizations and get some people in trouble. So, you know. So he's probably not going to be your favorite, but nonetheless, we have to talk about him, you guys. He was the first African-American FBI agent. So outside of him snitching and getting folks in trouble, it is what it is. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Georgia Ann Robinson, 1916, you guys. She was the first African-American female to be employed and work in the Los Angeles Police Department. Now listen, this lady is no joke, you guys. She was the real deal. She was good at her job. They said she had an amazing spirit, a loving heart. She served. She did a lot of community work. She was very connected, but she was nothing to play with. Very gangster. She didn't play that. She didn't take no crap from nobody. You know, I read her bio. I was very impressed, but I couldn't think of anything less, you guys. You know, African Americans back then, they were no joke. You had to be great at everything you did. There was no room for error, you guys. Not only were the African Americans then were on a mission, they were focused. They understood how important, how vital their role was to their community, guys. There was no shortcuts. They worked hard. They were harassed. They were unappreciated by their counterparts. But the black community loved them, you guys. There was a situation that occurred where she was working with an inmate, and the inmate assaulted her, ended up blinding her. You guys, she was blind, but that never stopped her. You know, Miss Robinson, she just was hard working. She was about that life. What did she do? She continued to volunteer her services with the NAACP. So what's interesting is one day a journalist is interviewing her. She's blind, and they're asking her these questions about her history, her life, and what she experienced as a female, the first black female officer in Los Angeles, and what her experiences were. And they're like, hold on, Miss Robinson, we got to ask you this. Do you have any regrets, right? Because you got blinded and this is your new life now. Any regrets? You know what Miss Robinson said? And I quote, I don't need my eyes any longer. I have seen all there was to see. That's cold, but powerful statement. Okay, last but not least, I had to save the best honorable mention for last, you guys. This gentleman is a man of renown. His name is Bass Reeves, you guys. What is so interesting about this gentleman? I'm gonna tell you what's interesting about this man. Has a story like no other. Bass Reeves in 1875, at the age of 38, doing his 32-year career as a deputy marshal. Now, this Bass Reeves guy is responsible for arresting over 3,000 felons. You guys, he's been in over 14 shootouts. They said this guy was a marksman shooter. He's 6'2". Obviously, he's over 100-something pounds. He was the marshals of marshals. But interesting about this guy, he was born in slavery. When he was freed, he lived with the indigenous people. He stayed with the Native Americans. They taught him how to track, how to hunt, how to find, how to look for people, you guys. His skill was beyond all of the other U.S. Marshals. He was so talented. They said he was an expert marksman. He's been in multiple shootouts. He's never been shot. Arrested over 3,000 people. He was ordained, he was given the right to actually apprehend white felons and black felons, you guys. He was the man. He was the man. Some are even saying that this is the character that they built the story Django off of. His story matches very similar. And so it's very interesting, as though it hasn't been confirmed, but that is what the rumor of the street is, that his character resembles this real life character, Bass Reeves. Not only that, also it's said that Bass Reeves was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, which I thought was very interesting as well. Again, you guys, what's amazing is African Americans are doing all these amazing things, and we're constantly inspiring these fictitious characters. Anyways, his nickname was the Indomitable Marshal, you guys. People feared him. His name ring bells in the streets, you guys. People knew when he was on your tail, it was game over. You were going in, dead or alive, right? So again, this guy was amazing. And so he inspired a lot. His stories live on to this day. People admire him, whether it's his face on or not, it doesn't matter. But this man is a great honorable mention. He did an amazing thing. He helped a lot of people. And even though he was illiterate, because he was a slave that was freed, he memorized warrants and writs. It didn't matter. People were amazed about, his coworkers were amazed about all the work that he did. He was probably the best marshal. They called on him to find people that they couldn't find. He had excellent tracking skills. He was an excellent marksman, and he's never been shot. The guy was phenomenal. So shout out to him and all the honorable mentions, you guys. Again, just a reminder of how amazing Black history is and why it needs to be 365 and not 28 days. Now, real quick before we go, you guys, I want to dive into something else. Since I'm here in Georgia and we're talking about the city of Atlanta, you guys, this is the new Gotham City. But prior to that, you guys, in April 1943, the Atlanta Police Department was existing, but this is when the first 8 Black police officers became a part of Atlanta Police Department. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you a little clip, give you a little backstory in the history of how these officers survived, what they did, what the community had to do, and how appreciative they were when they had African American police officers join the force and start patrolling the neighborhood. And there's a reason why I'm showing this.
The first 8 African American officers, this was the beginning of diversity for the Atlanta Police Department. Residents of that area and that community were fearful of the Atlanta Police Department because primarily they were made up of Klansmen during that time. So there was this mindset that our communities deserve justice like other communities.
Things began to change in 1946 when a landmark Supreme Court ruling outlawed all white primaries. This created a massive voter registration drive in Atlanta, and the Auburn Avenue clergy made the most of the opportunity.
The clergy and the head of the churches came together with the community and said, we're going to give them 20,000 black votes to get police officers in our community that we want. The politicians accepted it because they knew they needed the black community to win the race. So the community on Auburn Ave got those police officers to patrol their streets for them.
April 3rd, 1948, they patrolled Auburn Avenue. People lined the street so that their children could witness African American men wearing the patch that they had never seen black men wear. So it was a moment of great pride. Some of them described it as disbelief.
This went on for a while because the people couldn't get used to the idea of seeing the black police officer in uniform walking the beat.
It was a very tense time in politics, and desegregation was just not something that was embraced. And so they contended with that when they came to work every day.
Now, this is powerful, you guys. What did we just hear? We heard a community that came together as soon as they were able to vote. Over 18,000 African Americans are saying, hey, listen. You're not getting my vote unless you give us what we asked for. What do we want? We want our own police officers. You guys, this is a big deal. The black community was tired of being harassed by those who were hiding in blue but were covered in white, right? They were Klan members. They said, if you want our vote, we want black officers. They gave them 8. They gave them 8. You know, we see in this as the power of unity, the power of bringing votes together, bringing people together for a cause, for a purpose, and ensuring that they get it before they vote, right? What is the problem? What's the history like? We ask these questions, but what were the benefits of having black officers serving the black community? It made people feel comfortable. But what was going on? Black officers weren't allowed to drive cars. Black officers, and sometimes in some states, weren't allowed to even carry guns. They weren't able to get promoted. They had to walk the communities. But by walking up and down the communities, they were able to learn and talk to the communities and become one with the community. People felt safe. They felt more comfortable. The black officers weren't allowed to arrest white officers. They had to call for a white officer to come if a white citizen was violating the laws and it aroused to an arrestable offense. You guys, this was the culture. What happened to those officers in Atlanta? They could not stay at the police precinct. They stayed on Auburn Avenue, you guys. It's a complete black area at that time. They had to stay in the basement of the YMCA. This was the history. They weren't allowed to take their badge or their uniform or their gun out of the precinct. Those things had to stay there. So they were still, in a sense, the department was still segregated. You know, this is the history. This is what it looked like. And on top of that, you guys, you know there was pain and suffering. You know there was sacrifices. You know, I read an article about some of these Atlanta officers, the ones who worked back then, and they talked about how difficult it was, that many of them quit. They felt it hard to enforce the same laws that their people were being oppressed under. You know, it's deep, you guys. You know, there's a history of this. Listen, these things didn't happen that long ago, you guys. We're talking about 60, 70 years ago. One would say we came a long way, and then some would say we didn't come far enough. You know, doing this video was very important to me, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think sometimes so much time has gone between us, but to be honest, there hasn't really been that much time, you guys. Somewhere down the line, we have lost respect for one another. This disconnect between the black community and black law enforcement officers, you guys, we're lacking. No one wants to do this job, but yet all of us are complaining about how the job is being done. You guys, honestly, to solve this problem, we have to put ourselves in position. We have to rise to the occasion, you guys. It's not going to solve itself. We need our best and our brightest to stand up. You know, you guys, one of the biggest reasons why I decided to do this video, even to start this channel, is because I had something I wanted to give you guys. I served our community for 13 years, and I've been through so much, ups and downs, saved plenty of lives, supported many of people. I've also put many people in jail. You guys, I spoke life into people. I've prayed for people, those in and out of handcuffs, you guys. I never discriminated. I've seen a lot. I feel like God put me in this position to do something more. And this is what I'm trying to do. You know, what's interesting is I look at the timeline of events. I look at how officers started. During Jim Crow, during Black Codes, you guys, they were so grateful. There was an honor. There was a pride. They wanted to serve their people because they understood all the conflict. They understood the racism. The systemic racism at that time was destroying their community. And they said, listen, we have to stand up. We have to stand up. They knew that white people did not like that there were officers who were black with that badge, who had that power. They didn't like it, you guys. But there are African American men and women who stood up, and they faced all kinds of adversities, you guys. Where did that pride go? Right now, currently, you guys, it's 2022. Police departments struggle to hire officers. We insult black police officers every single day. We call them names. We call them sellouts. We call them Uncle Toms, even though Uncle Tom was a hero, right? People have called me Uncle Tom. They've called me a slave catcher. They said I've worked for the white man, you guys. I mean, I've heard it all. I've been insulted in the process of saving lives. Where has the pride gone? Where do we get the people, the men and women, to do this job with distinction, with integrity, who look like us, you guys? This is what we're asking for. We need more African American men to sign up, to join, to take up this position respectfully and have respect, to do this job without their ego, to not forget where they came from, not forget who they are. Our community is asking for it. We need it. Even though we say we don't. We can't complain about the police that are serving, that don't look like us, but then we don't want to volunteer to do the work ourselves. You guys, this is the problem. Again, there's approximately 700,000 law enforcement officers that patrol this country. They serve over 350 million citizens in this country. But guess how many officers are African American? Only 12%, you guys. That number is declining. 12% out of 700,000. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. You guys, we should be excited to serve our people. It should be an honor. We should be respected only when we earn it. We complain, we march. We say we want police accountability, which we do need to have. We complain and say the officers are no good. The bad apples, we hear it all the time. They're shooting us and killing us in the street. You guys, sign up. I encourage you to sign up. Who's going to take one for the team? Everybody can't be entertainers. Everybody can't be athletes, you guys. Everybody can't be musicians. Who else are going to do these jobs? These jobs that we're asking for, that we need. We need this type of service. Who's going to be our teachers? Who are going to be our attorneys, you guys? I just said 5% of the attorneys in this country are African American. When we have more people going in and out of the courtrooms, in and out of prisons, 38% of African Americans are in the prison system. We have more defendants going through courts than we have attorneys. 12% of our officers in this country are African American. We're lacking, you guys. And again, when you hear the history, you hear the pride, you hear the desire to want to stand up. You guys, these men and women who put on the uniform before us did it with pride. They did it because they understood the mission. They understood that there's nobody more worthy to serve than their own people. And that's the power of it. Listen, you guys, it's a dangerous job. I don't make excuses for horrible officers. Never will I do that. You guys, they're an amazing group of African American officers out here who serve with distinction. They serve with integrity every single day. You guys, I work with them. I'm one of them. There's power in being serviced by someone who looks like you, but it goes both ways, right? We can't ask for police reform and then not look at reforming society. You guys, the police are a reflection of the people. Remember that. This is a two-way street. There's a lot of work on our side, though. I ain't gonna lie. There's a lot of work. But we can't do it by ourselves, right? You know, at the end of the day, I think we have to remember that though we acknowledge this is a difficult job, you guys, there's a person behind this uniform. Every officer is not created equal. We're all different. We have to acknowledge that. We have to learn how to humanize this badge, humanize this process, you guys. We make mistakes. We make mistakes. but it's no excuse either. So we got to find a happy medium. Listen, this job is crazy, you guys. This job is dangerous. It takes a brave person to put this uniform on, but it takes courage to do the job. This is not a joke. Because when you have bravery, it's like you're able to do something dangerous. When there's no fear, there's an absence of fear. You do something great, despite the pain, despite the sacrifice, despite what's going to happen, despite the danger. There's no fear, you're doing it. That's cool. You guys putting on this uniform is an act of bravery. But when we have courage to do the job, what do I mean by that? It takes courage to do this job. You guys see, courage is different. Courage is different. Because with courage, fear is present. Fear is present in front of an obstacle, in front of the danger, in front of the impossibilities, you guys, and then you push past that. That's courage. It takes a brave person to put this uniform on, but it takes courage to do the job, you guys. We need more courageous African American men and women to do this job. All right, you guys, that's it for this premiere. Thank you so much for sticking with me. You guys, if you enjoyed this content, please like, I always forget to ask, please like the video, and also please share this video. It means a lot. And I would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts in the comment section. I know you guys never hold back, and I appreciate that. I will get back to all the comments. If you have any questions, would love to hear it as well. You guys, thank you so much, and I hope that you learned something and you were informed and some interesting things. Such amazing African American men and women in law enforcement. And again, you guys, we continue to make trailblazing accomplishments in this profession. Again, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for those past, thank you for those present who are working, putting on the uniform, making that sacrifice, and serving their communities with distinction. We honor you, we thank you, and we thank all law enforcement, you guys. But it's Black History Month, so we're talking about the brothers and sisters. So anyways, you guys, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And with that, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. God bless.